My name is Ryan Gonzalez. I'm 47 years old, and my major is going to be in the graphic design department.
My name is John Ziamba. I'm 32 years old, and my major is music industry.
I'm down in Boughton. I don't have a major, I'm just taking history classes. 62.
My name's Ross Manwaran, and I'm 49. I work at Oneonta. I'm in the custodial department. I've been a cleaner and a janitor for the last 6 years, and I'm just now this week assuming a supervisor role in that department. So
my father was a Marine, so I had always known or had been taught that the Marines were the best, and I figured if you're going to be a bear, you might as well be a grizzly bear. So I decided to go the hard route. I had explored the Air Force and some other branches, but at the end of the day, I felt like I wanted to be the best, and so I joined the Marine Corps.
So I joined the military in 2016, and I joined the Army because my ex-wife, we joined kind of together, and we both decided on the Army. Also, it's just kind of the biggest branch, and in my opinion, the best branch.
Well, I joined the military because I didn't want to go to college, so it didn't make sense for me to be out in the street without a job and things, so I joined the military.
I guess you'd say growing up as a kid, I'd always kind of wanted to be in the military. It was something that always kind of intrigued me. I graduated high school in '95, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I went to what they call BOCES, and I took security and law enforcement there for a year after I graduated, and I kind of got interested in it. And then I went to college down in a community college in Broome, Binghamton for a year, and to study criminal justice, and I really kind of got into it. And then the more I kept on thinking about it, I kind of kept on wanting and more interested in the military. And eventually my friend and I hooked up with a recruiter and talked to him about the opportunities and whatnot, and finally I pulled the trigger, signed up, and that was in '97, I believe, and then I enlisted for 4 active duty years with the Air Force, regular active duty.
It was an interesting adventure for me. I originally signed up for infantry, and my father was an infantryman in the 70s, and he got rather upset that I joined the infantry. He's like, if you're going to go in there and serve your country for 4 years, then learn a trade. Luckily, I had done really well in the ASVAB, so I could have any job that I wanted. And luckily, I had done well in boot camp because I was the guide. And what that means was that I was the recruit leader of the platoon. You have 4 squad leaders, and then you have one guide that's in charge of the squad leaders. I was that guide. I was well known in my platoon, and I was able to go to my senior drill instructor in boot camp on Parris Island and tell him that I no longer wanted to be in the infantry, and that I wanted to try and change my MOS. As far as I know, I am the only person I've ever heard of that's been able to do this. So I said that I wanted to get into the aviation field. And so I became a helicopter mechanic on a CH-46 helicopter. And then while I was there, now I was caught in this weird position because I joined because I wanted action. That's why I went into the infantry. And I didn't want to go infantry because it wasn't really feeling like that was going to be something that was, it's super hard. I mean, my son was infantry, spent a lot of time in the woods. So I decided to go helicopters, but then I was just a mechanic, and I didn't like that either. I wasn't getting the adventure that I wanted. Eventually, I was able to cross-train as an air crewman, which meant that I started flying on helicopters, and I was a door gunner on helicopters. And that's when I really found my place in the Marine Corps.
And the job that I wanted was in the Army, and it was a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout. Basically, I did reconnaissance and scouting and all that fun stuff, and got to wear a cool cowboy hat.
And so very good experiences. You learn a lot.
It was overall a great experience, a whirlwind. I went through my basic and my technical training and stuff like that. And it wasn't even, I would say 6 to 7, maybe 8 months at the most, I was already being deployed to the desert. That would have been late 97, early 98 or so. And I did a couple deployments, roughly about a year altogether.
I decided to go to college after my time in the Marine Corps. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was married and I went through a divorce. Ultimately moved to Florida and was going through what people go through after a divorce, you know, the hardships that are involved with that. I was working as a waiter at a company that had a bar across the street, so most nights I would end up at the bar afterwards. And one night, after a bender, I woke up half in, half out of a lake with an alligator 5 feet away, and I thought to myself, this is not the life that I need. I'm a Marine. I need to get myself back on my feet. And that morning I went and I took the college enrollment test and joined classes, used my GI Bill. And I always knew that I wanted to be an artist. I've been into art since I was a kid. And so that's how I originally ended up back in school. I got my associate's degree and immediately went into the field working as a graphic artist. A lot of my time as a graphic designer, I was an entrepreneur, so I didn't necessarily need a degree because I was the boss. I was the one who was making the decisions and doing the hiring. But ultimately, because of life, we ended up selling our company in Florida, moving back to New York. But there came a point where I didn't have a job and I was pursuing a job, and it didn't matter that I had 25 years of experience because people weren't seeing my resume because my resume didn't say that I had a bachelor's degree. So computer systems or HR systems were just removing my resume from the stack. Luckily, my wife is an HR professional, and she's like, they're not seeing it. They're not seeing that you have this experience. You need to go back to school. You need to finish your degree. And we were in a position at this point in life where I could do that, so that's what we did. Back in the New York area since 2016, my first job actually had me delivering parts on SUNY Oneonta. And I always thought, what a great campus, and I used to drive by and kind of envision myself in the fine arts department. But this time I was still living in Binghamton. Well, as fate would have it, my wife ended up getting a really good job in Oneonta, so we transplanted from Binghamton over to here. I really liked the campus here. They had the best fine arts program, or really graphic design art program in general. And so that's why I ended up here.
So I took several years off. I took about 4 years off because I got out in 2019, and then I came to college in 2023. So I took a few years off just traveling, exploring the country and everything like that because I was overseas during my career. So I didn't really get to check out the country that much. So I got a camper and had a dog, and we just traveled around the country and everything like that. Then COVID happened. I just decided to come back to college and further my education.
Well, when I came out of the military, I didn't come in as a work. I came back from military to civilian world. It's an adjustment.
When I got off regular active duty, I transitioned in 2001 because I was stationed down in North Carolina to the Guard or Reserve component, and that was in 2001, and I had the intention to use the GI Bill, come back here to Oneonta, and go to college, you know, get a degree or whatnot. And as it turned out, right around that time frame, 9/11 happened. I use the word involuntary because it's not that I had a problem doing it, but it, in the technical lingo, brought back to active duty to my base here in New York. A lot of my buddies that were discharged around that same time, they went back to regular active duty. So that kind of put the kibosh on to coming back and being a student right away. And then I guess over the next Sorry.
No, you're good, you're good, you're good.
Yeah. Well, over the next 6 years or so, we all know how it played out with, with the war and all that, and it was my job to coordinate deployment taskings and facilitate my fellow airmen to deploy, and so it was a lot of responsibility at a young age. Proud to do it, and so the time passed, and eventually I got to a situation or a point where I could revert back to being a 1 week in a month, or what would you kind of lingo, weekend warrior or whatnot, and eventually was able to come back to college. It was probably around, I was probably 28, 29 that time frame or so. I retired from the Air Force in 2017, and it was a month or so later I started here, and as fate had it or whatnot, I ended up working in the field house.
Bit difficult to become a civilian again, because in the Marine Corps and in the military in general, they do things in a very different way. There's not a lot of asking questions. It's following orders. When somebody says this is what needs to happen, you find a way to make it happen. In the civilian world, there's a lot of hem and hawing about how you're going to do it, what you're going to do, if you're going to get that done at all. So that was probably the hardest part of my transition. I'm sure there was challenges, and I'm sure that people found me challenging sometimes because I was very intense when I was young, and I was a Marine, and coming back into society was a little bit different. But I found my place in college actually, and was able to be a leader of my class, and so a lot of my skills, my leadership abilities, kind of rose to the top, and I learned how to deal. Not everybody is a Marine, so you can't treat everybody like a Marine. And I learned a lot in that process. And coming back to school, the reason I was really excited about coming back to school was because I was able to get involved in the art department again. As a professional artist, you don't necessarily create the art that you want to create. When I came for the open house and experienced the campus and saw all of the resources that were available, I got really excited about being able to, spend 40 hours drawing a picture again, which is something that I hadn't done in 20 years. I've been able to start making art that is important to me personally. A lot of the students here are the age of my children. As far as the instructors go, I think that most of the instructors recognize that I am different as a student, and then especially in the art department, the classes I've had have been really kind of things that I'm very strong in, and I think that the instructors recognize that right away. And so I've almost become an assistant in a sense. When students have problems, they come to me. If the professor's tied up and they have questions, they're able to ask me, and because I'm proficient in this particular field, I'm able to help them really elevate the quality of the work that the entire class is putting out. Even in a certain sense of competitiveness, which I don't want to make it sound like there's a competition, but when they see that one person is producing very high quality work, I think that makes them want to step up and produce higher quality work as well.
So I already own and operate a music studio, kind of built it, and then I'm like, okay, now what do I do? So I decided to come from music industry because it was kind of furthering what I already kind of do and everything like that. And also it's something that interests me. I've been a musician for 20 plus years. I'm mainly a drummer, but I also play guitar and bass and ukulele and some hand drum stuff, and I produce too. My experiences and my kind of priorities were a lot different than when I was 18, 19 years old in college the first time versus when I'm 32 years old and I'm a veteran and everything like that. It's a little challenging sometimes.
In the military you have rules, regulation, discipline, everything straightforward. When you come out into the civilian world, you have to transition back into a mindset of basically chaos. I came to SUNY Oneonta as a worker. I just started taking college classes this semester because it was a history class, that during the period of time that I actually live, and you very rarely get opportunity to study something that you actually lived through. So I took the class, I like it, so I said I'm going to continue taking some more classes next semester.
And it's really kind of an intense atmosphere there with just a lot going on, all the athletes, and I feel like I kind of clicked there because the intensity, it's kind of what I always kind of experienced in the Air Force, and so I always like the challenge and being under pressure in a way, and kind of keeps me going, gives you something to keep trying to conquer. And so it's been really good.
Student, I take 5 classes. I've been lucky enough to keep it within a schedule that's 2 days a week because I do have to work full time. I have, adult responsibilities. I have a mortgage. I have car payments, a wife, kids, grandkids, dogs, things that need to be taken care of outside of school. So Monday and Wednesday, I'm here from 8 to 7 taking 5 classes. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I work full time. And then I've also started my own company on the side. So most days look like 8 to 7 here. And then I usually go home and work on some sort of project for my company, usually until around midnight. And then I go to bed between 12 and 1. Usually I get up around 5 because I have to be in Binghamton by 7. And then I do my day job, which is a delivery driver for pipe valves, whether it's to Buffalo or Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's kind of our range. And then I go back to Vestal, pick up my vehicle, get home. When I get home, I either work on homework or projects that I have for my company. And then the weekends, pretty much Saturdays are install dates for me, where I can take care of the clients that I have in my company, which is pretty much, we're a design firm, we do web development, but we also are a large format printer. We do vehicle wrap signs. So we just did all of the graphics at Wells Fargo and Oneonta. We just did all of the graphics at Dick's Sporting Goods. We just did a Nuno's Farm Market signs. And those are usually Saturday days, if we can make it work that way. And then Sunday is pretty much all day homework. Lived a lot of my life and gained a lot of those experience, and as such I have those additional responsibilities. So now to come back, I have to figure out how to juggle that.
There is a lot of pressure on me. I'm a homeowner too. So like my wife was just texting me saying that our basement is flooding right now. So yay. It normally does that, so it's fine. Like we're just like whatever. But there's the challenges of that. There's the challenges of a family and everything like that. Also just being a little bit older and more responsibilities, more bills, stuff like that. I don't necessarily work full-time outside of here. I am a full-time student. So the classes here are interesting. I really like them, and I really like the professors. Really seem to care, but not like overly, like they understand that people have lives. People have other responsibilities and stuff like that. They're very understanding. The staff here is extremely knowledgeable. Actually, one of my first professors when I came back was actually my old drum teacher from 22 years ago. So that was a familiar face and everything like that. And now I'm taking another class with him. Right now I have a class called History of Rock, which is really cool because it's just the history of rock. Taking that this semester. Last semester it was a little challenging and it was a little much, but I took an acting class that was really fun. There's no classes that I necessarily dislike.
Well, being in SUNY enough, I've learned a lot. I've achieved a lot. I'm technically a custodian, but I'm also second vice president of the union now, a member of BARD, President's Council, a couple of things, KOE, which is King of Excellence. King of Excellence is it's a mentoring program we started last year, where it's not for men, even though it's called King's Excellence. Anybody can join it, male, female, whatever. And it's actually a mentor program. We teach them etiquette, how to talk, how to walk, dress, outside of academics. When you go out, leave here, how to go in the world, how to function. We give them show them how to do resume, business cards, transition. I've actually learned that college life is not as bad as I thought it was, and students are not bad, It's just if you get a good rapport with them and understand them, they're really good.
One of the most screwy schedule. It's going to change pretty soon, but since I've started, I've worked Saturdays and Sundays day shift, and then Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays the midnight or overnight shift. But maintain the facility, help people as they need it, set up for events, whatever. On the overnight shift, it's more, you're concentrating on more of the deep cleaning, and a lot of times we would set up or break down from an event that would happen, set up for one that's coming, and it's a lot of work involved, and generally that's what it is.
I think that certainly I would have recommendations. I think that one of the things that I think most colleges probably do this is it's just that they try to teach so much so fast. And I get it. They want you to learn this huge gamut of information, but I think that it would serve the students better in terms of education, and you would retain more if, rather than having a major project due every week, maybe you do one major project a month, and then you build on that project for the next month, and then you build on it for the next, rather than starting a new one. Especially, and I'm talking specifically in terms of web design or drawing programs. I do have one class that is like that, where I just get one project basically every month, and I'm producing very high quality work. But when you have a project where you get assigned a project on Monday and it's due, let's say, the following Monday, that gives you 1 day of class that you're learning lecture. Potentially 1 day of class is time for lab work. And if you have a schedule like mine, then the next time you're going to work on that is Sunday, and it's due on Monday. So you're really kind of always rushing. I think that degrades the quality of the work. Now, in my case, I'm able to retain a lot of it, but I'm already 95% of the way there. So I could see it from a traditional student's perspective, where if they're trying to learn that all in that same week, I would think that would be extremely difficult. And I see those struggles in the classwork. I think that that would be nice if they could find a little bit better balance there. And I do think that it's tough that there's a lot of it's put on you outside of class. I mean, I understand that that's also part of learning, but it seems like there's a lot. And there's been whole Sundays where I've spent from 7 o'clock in the morning till midnight working on classwork. If I was able to stay in a dorm and be on campus all the time and not have to work so much to cover all these things, then I would have more time to put into those things. And there's students that do. There's some students that I've been really amazed by some of it. I've seen especially as an artist, in my one class, I've been extremely impressed with the quality of the artwork that some of these students are putting out. And clearly, some of them are putting in hours. Like in a week, where I created a 3 or 4 page spread, I think the girl came in with like a 15-page spread. She must have just gone to her dorm and worked on that constantly for a week. So yeah, there's some challenges there, and there's some places that I think that there could be improvement. I don't necessarily have the answers, but I do think that if the goal of the university is to attract more adult learners and even more military veterans, I think that that's an important conversation for the future.
Great. We just need a lounge.
Well, we just started last year military meetup. We're trying to get a military lounge, a veterans lounge, where we can gather, veterans can gather and talk to other veterans, where they can feel more comfortable, where people that can actually understand what they're talking about. So it's coming along. We actually having a meeting today with the president to discuss it a little further.
But I do remember when I was here as a student at that time, I was kind of trying to figure out, of other veterans on campus that I could maybe connect with or whatnot. And I did kind of stumble across a couple. And then I met some friends that were, more my age, and then kind of clicked or whatnot. But I do always remember that, it would have been really cool if there was something to take all that kind of searching out to find people with common ground with me.
A community here on campus. Yeah, I think I have. I think that certainly the military meetup group, you know, there's just something about veterans being with veterans, you know. There's not a way to describe the experience to someone. I mean, you can describe it to them, but you can't really connect with somebody who hasn't walked a mile in those shoes. So it's really nice to be around other veterans and a part of the veteran organization to try and perpetuate things for the future for veterans on campus. And then additionally, I think the art community. I've made some friends, and we're constantly talking about, you know, in an art capacity, we're in group meetings, we're talking outside of class, trying to help one another, providing guidance. So I do sort of end up feeling like a fatherly figure, but there's also a difference. I mean, I know that they see me as an equal, and I see them as equals, but it's usually me trying to help guide them.
Great. The military meetups have been great. Julie's been great. Military meetups brought me to getting a personal trainer on campus, everything like that through the military meetups, because we met with somebody and everything like that, and that really is beneficial, especially for veterans and stuff like that, having a purpose and doing PT again. The military meetups themselves, what we did on Veterans Day and stuff like that, even though it was small, but it was thought out. You know, and it seems like a lot of people really care about their veterans here. People in the military meetups, I have their numbers and everything like that. I text them. I've had some problems last semester, you know, with my house and everything like that, and they texted me and made sure everything was good. It really is a sense of community again.
I had a positive experience, and I have a community, I would say, because of my positions and in the union, I have, I would say, I have some people in faculty that I can talk to, and staff. We're personable.
Yeah, the military meetups is I think exactly kind of filling it, or it's what I was kind of like wish was in place when I was a student, because it would have taken the guesswork out of it for me. I could speak for myself at this day and age, you know, being an employee here as well, that for the military meetups for myself is something to bring us together, that is a really good thing. You know, we don't need the red carpet rolled out for us, because for the most part, veterans will take it from there. Get us together. We know how to support each other, talk to each other.
A lack of visibility for veterans on campus. There may be veterans that are on campus that aren't using their benefits, so we don't know who they are. And there's not like a location that you go to find other veterans. We don't have our own space. I think that would be an important thing for visibility, and then also for the community part of it. It gives those guys a place to go and be together. I think that there would be a benefit into having someone who specializes in admissions for military personnel, because we have different resources available to us, and I think in some ways that the school doesn't know what those resources are because they don't have a liaison that's specifically for that veteran population. I think that as an overarching institution, especially a state institution, that a government institution, that they should do more in terms of getting veterans, whether it's credits or leadership points or whatever, for the different experiences they had. I didn't get any credits for being a helicopter mechanic. When I was 22 years old, I was responsible for multi-million-dollar machines. I was pulling engines out. I was replacing parts, putting those engines back in, and then getting on it and flying on it to make sure it was safe. Like, there's some science there. There's some physics there. There's some flight physics that you need. And I never been approached about any of it, let alone the leadership side of it. You know, you're flying multi-million-dollar aircraft with 20 other personnel on it and equipment that's worth a lot of money. Your responsibility level as a 20-year-old is pretty insane. And then you can add combat into that conversation, which I was lucky enough to not have to face combat. It was a potential, you know, I still was, and even in training, it's simulated combat, so you're still in high risk situations. We're actually flying. We're actually flying and firing real live rounds at stuff, and things can go wrong, and they have. There's been training accidents. I was in a helicopter crash in a training accident. I think that there's some things that they could do, and then in general for adult learners, I bring 20 years of experience in the design field with me to the table, and I feel like it's been a bit of an obstacle to try and get recognition for that. Even I don't even know what courses I'm supposed to be picking right now, and I'm getting ready to start my second semester because I started the conversation in October and we're in April and there's still not been a resolution. And to me, that says that there's something wrong in the ecosystem, something that needs to be addressed there. And so I would like to see something happen there, and I would love to be a part of that to make it easier for future students. And I think that, SUNY as an institution understands that guys like me or adult learners are going to be a big part of the market moving forward for you guys, or for the institution. Less and less students are going into college after high school, and a big demographic for their market would be guys like me that are like, hey, maybe it's time for me to go back and finish up that degree. Anything that they can do to make that process more beneficial, easier to transition into. There's a lot of things that could be worked on there.
Didn't even know that there was necessarily a military community here when I applied. I knew that they took the GI Bill, and I knew that they accepted me, but I didn't necessarily know, and that's one of the things I asked is like, is there a veterans only area or like a lounge or something like that? I always go back to the lounge as a joke, but like that is something that is kind of important for vets and stuff like that, to get away from kind of everyone and have a quiet space.
Besides the lounge, more outreach for the veterans so they know what resources are available to them on this campus and by the SUNY, that there are veterans here, student veterans, staff, faculty, administration, and that there's people that they can talk to if they need to talk about anything that's bothering them, military related or even personal.
So yeah, I would say get the word out, support that kind of, I don't know if you'd say a culture, or to make veterans feel comfortable to come to somebody and express their issues and things they've been through dealing with.
Students were aware of the military population. In regards to the military population, I think that would be important, because I think that we do live in a culture that's patriotic, and I think that most students support the military and understand that veterans face a certain challenge or have in their life. Be supportive, and I think that we are. I think that but that's more of a human-to-human interaction more than a veteran versus student or student-veteran. They might look at me like, man, he's old. What is he doing here? I'm sure I stick out like a sore thumb on campus walking around sometimes, but most people have been really gracious and like, that's awesome, welcome, make sure you get it done. So it's been mostly positive with students. So no, I don't think there's anything that necessarily needs to change. I think, again, it comes down to the visibility. I think that they just don't know we're here because there's not a space, there's not signs, there's not a lot of events. There's a lot of people on campus that have a brother who's in the Army or a son who's in the Navy, and I'm talking staff, faculty, students, everybody. There's probably a lot of missed opportunities for people that we're just not connecting with because we don't have the right visibility and the right resources to connect. And I would love to help facilitate that as somebody who's kind of spearheading it as an adult learner and a veteran on campus. I know that there's a handful of us, and I think that any one of them would be happy to be involved. So.
And have a space where you're around other veterans. Everybody in in this office, and especially Julie, has been a really, really good veteran coordinator and really cares about the vets and is starting to pick up the lingo and everything like that, and it's neat to see.
If they can do that, it'd be a nice experience for all the veterans.
Yeah, that's pretty much, I would say that.